This is Between Hook Sets. I'm Jason Walter from In Through the Outdoors with my partner in slime, Kurt Underhill from the Fishing Crew.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, not much. I miss sitting beside you there.
I know it's a little weird. I can't mess with your hook set or anything.
No, you look like you're lonely too.
Yeah.
Uncle Lou, how do you do? Well, look at Uncle Lou's name in script. Wow, isn't that gorgeous?
I was
messing
with stuff, and then Danny hopped on. So we're gonna have a great guest tonight in the world of the technology fishing game and all the stuff that's happened over the last couple of years. This one's been a long time coming. So I know I've had a couple people reach out that are pretty excited. So I'm going to forewarn Danny before we bring him in. There might be some questions, and we'll see how they go. Q&A.
Oh, there we go. I got to turn that. Yeah, that's right.
Mobridge gang signs.
Yeah, Q and I. You know what? Why even try? I need to stop. Danny, how you doing?
Doing good.
Fabulous. Well, we could tell you're a gamer there with your fancy blue microphone. Gosh almighty.
Well, I mean, he's got probably the second guest we've had on that's had a more sophisticated setup than us, right?
True. Yeah, true.
So, Danny, give us a little backstory on who you are and how you kind of got into where you're at nowadays before we get too deep into this.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously I work with Garmin, right? So I'm actually a regional sales manager for Garmin on the marine side. Been doing it for 10 years now. So surprisingly, time goes by fast, and, it's been a good ride. Obviously started with Garmin when they were kind of just first going to start getting back into the inland fishing game here. And, we really didn't have a whole lot of units back then, so to speak, but it was fun. And I got to do a lot of promoting and really trying to grow the business. And then obviously, I mean, Garmin has really exploded into, obviously one of the top electronics companies out there right now with great technology and all the stuff we have. So it's a great company to work for. I've really enjoyed it. And, I get to do a lot of cool things because of it. So, yeah, it's been fun.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but I was talking to a guy the other day who was like, Garmin's got their hands in everything. They're blah, 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 and this and that, and they've got boats. And I'm like, boats? Yeah, Garmin boats. I was like, no, that was grooming. Like that was the airplane people that had boats, not the electronics people, not the Panoptics Livescope people, right? So, I mean, whatever, it was kind of fun to poke fun at them, like, you got that wrong, but I better shut up because I might get something wrong, and you two will poke me for getting it wrong too. So, honestly, I just to start the thing, I was a huge Humminbird guy years ago. 2013, I got into the side imaging thing. It was great, really fun, right? And then the Live came along like a year and a half later, and I thought nothing would be better than it. And then I started to dabble in Lowrance, and I had Garmin. I've got the ECHOMAP. Is it ECHOMAP or ECHOMAP?
We always say ECHOMAP.
It's ECHOMAP. Okay, that's what I call it, but I always think that I'm saying it wrong. So I have the ice fishing bundle.
Okay.
I've got the ECHOMAP UHD 93 with the LV32. So I have the original bundle from 4 years ago. And I thought that it was the cat's pajama, and I wouldn't need to have anything more than that. And honestly, for those people that are fishing in shallower basin type of lakes, if you're fishing in 20 feet, even 30 feet of water, the 32 is fine, whatever. I mean, and I'm not trying to not sell, units for you or ducers for you, but I got schooled on Lake Oahe with an 8612 and 8616. And frankly, I hope we get into the conversation like we did with Tom Wynn, where we talk 8616 and then the Ultra 2, the new ECHOMAP 166. So, and honestly, I was going to get in a little graphic going and get into all of the different resolutions, because it's amazing where you go from the original ECHOMAP, which is at like 800 by 400 or something. And then you get all the way up into 4K. That's 3,400 by 2,800. I mean, it's just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean the technology is insane. It just keeps getting better. That's for sure.
So it can't get any better than 4K, at least for now, right? I mean, or is there 5 or 6K out there?
I mean, we're at the limit that we can do at this point, obviously. But like I said, I mean, 7 years ago, I never would have thought I'd be able to watch my jigging wrap go to the bottom and have fish chase it either. So
Yeah.
who knows what's yet to come? Electronics are ever changing. But yeah, I mean, obviously, right now there's a lot of great options. And like you were saying, the different resolutions and stuff. I think what's cool. I mean, obviously, yeah, 86/16, that's awesome. 16:43, we got these big 16-inch screens, great resolution, all that stuff. But I mean, we even look at like an ECHOMAP 106, a 10-inch ECHOMAP Ultra unit, priced real nicely. We had them available with a bundle with the Livescope right there in them for a while. And I mean, talk about one heck of a unit for the price point. I mean, the resolution, sure. Is it better on 8600? Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? Those ECHOMAP Ultras are incredible units with Livescope, and especially talking ice fishing as we're coming into fall here. But in the boat, I run ECHOMAP Ultras in my own personal boat because I love the quick release bracket and I love the buttons. So, I think all around that's kind of the cool part is the technology as it kind of continues to keep evolving. We're able to bring some of that good stuff down into the ECHOMAP line versus just that GPS map line. To make it maybe more affordable, but also, great for everybody that wants to have the different units in their boats.
So are we going to see an upgrade in ducers from the 34 for the regular average fisherman? What you have, is it the 56 that you would use on a boat or
yeah,
in deeper
so
water?
56 is like the transom mount transducer. We kind of call it like an all-in-one. That's going to give you like your 2D, your down imaging, and your side imaging, right? So that'll be separate. That's the best of the best right now. And then of course the Livescope LVS 34. That is the best of the best right now for forward-facing sonar. We had the 32, like you talked about, which really is a great transducer. And I talked to a lot of ice fishing guys, obviously, where I'm located, but the 32 is an excellent transducer for ice fishing. It fits in a 7-inch hole. It's a little bit lighter, great transducer, works really well for that. 34, yeah, the arrays are longer. Like it's like a side imaging transducer. The longer those are, the better the clarity, the range, all that kind of stuff. The stitching is noticeably better, I would say. So yeah, 34 is a good upgrade, but you're not missing anything by, per se on the 32, especially in ice where we're in an aquarium. And then we have our XR, right? So that's going to be our LVS 62. That's kind of our long range deal. We make it for guys like dropping down in the ocean, we're able to get to like that 300-foot saltwater, 500-foot freshwater. I was able to bring one up to northern Canada one summer and actually lake trout fish with it. And it was awesome. I mean, you can see fish a long ways away. So for that, it works great. Now, it's funny because you see all these bass guys now, and I've even seen some musky guys as of late with a XR in perspective mode on their trolling motor. And really, the clarity isn't quite as good as like a 34, but the distance is crazy. So these guys really trying to see fish far away and then move in closer on them and then scope them with a 34. I mean, it is a good system. So, a lot of different uses, but those three are our best of the best right now.
So let's talk about perspective mode a little bit, because I run into a lot of guys that think they want to use it. And honestly, I guess I won't call myself an expert, but I've been using it for 12 years, right? So I know what side imaging, and I understand the whole 360. And I guess because I understand that, maybe perspective mode makes more sense for me, but I get confused by it.
Mm-hmm. Perspective mode, the thing is, like, obviously the best of views, like, or the most clear view that you can get with a Livescope transducer is going to be in down mode. We're taking that power, we're kind of pushing it straight down. Everything's under us. It makes sense. You can see your bait dropping, all that, right? Then we go to forward mode. It's basically the same. We're putting some of that power out front to give us that distance. Now, when we go into perspective mode, I think what a lot of people struggle with too is like, it's more that bird's eye view, right? So you really have to think of it like you're thinking of your side imaging or a 360 or something like that. And you're not going to see your bait drop and you're not going to see that stuff, but you can definitely see the fish. And then the other thing is it like really shines in certain applications. So if we're on a sand bottom in 12 feet or less of water, it's excellent.
Bingo.
It is excellent
Right.
for smallmouth fishing this spring, where the fish were shallow and they're kind of on the sand and the rocks. It is so cool for following a weed edge, just like you would with side imaging. Awesome. For looking for rock piles, all that. It's really, really cool. But if you really want that clear view of a fish swimming and throwing your bait at it and all that kind of stuff, that's really why Forward excels. I mean, and you'd be shocked how many people come to us at shows and just really have no clue what their electronics are telling them anyways. So
right. And that's the big thing. I honestly, and I tell people that, and it's just a few of my friends. It isn't any, it's not like I'm offering any great advice or anything of that nature, but you don't understand what you're seeing on your down imaging. You don't understand what you're seeing on side imaging. And frankly, how the hell do you expect to see what you see in perspective if you can't tell the difference between a rock, the weeds? Like you said, in sand, on a sandy bottom, on a basin, I don't care if it's a silty bottom basin and you're in 12 feet of water, 20 feet of water, different deal. You get out here on Lake Oahe, I drop my 360 live down and I'm like, actually, I take that back. I didn't have 360 live at the time in 2014, 15. It was the 360. But even at 455, I'll tell you what, you bring that thing out here and you look at all of the undulation, it'd be like looking at a crazy green on a golf course man, I'll tell you what, you could be confused in a quick hurry. And it's just going to muck up your fishing trip.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the thing, this is something too, I feel like the guys that are really good at this, you look at the Dewey Helms and you look at Tom Wins and guys like that are just, I mean, absolute experts with Livescope. And I had a great example. Actually, I get to do a lot of work with like Shields, right? So we'll do some training, and I was able to go down to Georgia to one of their universities with some of these bass guys. And I got in the boat with Anthony Gagliardi and Fred Robanis, and these guys, I mean, the efficiency and their fishing skills tied in with the Livescope put you on the next level. And so I guess like a lot of guys, they'll come and they'll buy a Livescope from me and they'll put it on their boat and then they immediately leave for a trip to Devil's Lake of the Woods. Relax, right? Their week-long trip that they, and they spend all this money on a Livescope and they get there and they're kind of like, okay, I see fish. I don't really know what I'm doing. I mean, I've been in boats where guys don't even line their transducers up with the pole correctly. The best thing you can do is just getting some time on the water with this stuff. And I like live sonar because it's more intuitive. So like what you see is what's happening. So if we see a fish swimming and it looks like a big fish and it's heading to the right, like that's exactly what's happening. If our bait isn't on the bottom, we can see that. You can't see that, right, when you're looking at 2D and that kind of stuff. But when you watch these guys like Dewey Helm and Fred Robanis or Anthony Gagliardi, like they were not only seeing the fish, they could tell if it was a fish they wanted to throw at. And when they would throw a bait at it, whether it was a jig wrap, a slip bobber, a minnow or something like that, I mean, these guys hit those fish right on the nose every single time, no matter if that fish is to the left, to the right, behind them, deep, shallow. So like, the guys that get really good at this forward-facing sonar stuff, they don't just go out on their most important trip or tournament day and try to use this forward-facing sonar. They're going out and they're going, okay, those are some rocks. They're just fishing by themselves and like really trying to learn what it is. And then also, I mean, you're talking a 20-degree cone angle. These guys are trying to throw a bait and land on a 20-degree cone angle. And if that fish is within 20 feet, I mean, that's a really small spot that you're trying to hit. So like, just practicing this stuff is what gets him good. And it ties into perspective mode. Same exact thing. Like if you want to get good at side imaging, you want to get good at perspective mode, really any of this stuff, fortunately, it takes some practice. I mean, obviously the technology, people want to say, oh, it changes. You put a Livescope on your boat, you're going to catch every fish in the whole world. Doesn't even matter. Well, you might be able to see them, but you're not going to catch them. 9 times out of 10, the fish don't want to bite anyways. And then the other times, like you got to have the skill to see the fish, hold the boat in the waves, and make that cast and make it count. And so, that's what I always talk about. Like, just make sure you're getting out there and practicing it and really trying to hone your skills when it comes to casting, because this is a different type of fishing, especially for us up here in the Midwest. We're not used to standing in the front of the boat, putting down the sandwich and the coffee and throwing a bait at a walleye. We're used to sitting in the back, you know what I mean, and dragging a minnow or dragging a leech.
Right.
And there was some precision to that with trying to hold on the structure and that kind of stuff. But this Livescope stuff, that throws in so many new aspects to this, So boat control is incredible. I mean, look at the trolling motors. I mean, the style of trolling motor we're using nowadays, and the type of boats, the type of rods, like everything is changing right now because it's a different type of fishing. It really is. And there is some skill to it. Like, believe it or not, there is a lot of skill to being a great fisherman with forward facing sonar.
And we're seeing guys completely go to bass techniques, go to all these things we've never done in the walleye, right? Like you said, we're used to putting bottom bouncers or crankbaits down and just pulling. Or, guys used to be like, springtime, you pitch jigs. That's about the only time you ever casted, right? Like, now we're learning that you can do this year round, just not on the bank. So we're targeting these fish. And it's really interesting you say got into guys' boats that their transducers are all messed up. We have a young kid out here, great fisherman, awesome. He was at this little guide thing. I look over, there's another guide over there. And he's like, I walk over, go, what are you doing? He goes, well, he's got his Livescope transducer on backwards, number one. And number two, he has it loop-de-looped, electrical taped to the power head to the power cord of the trolling motor. He got off, flipped the transducer the right way. So I saw him a few weeks later and I go, how'd that work? And he's like, well, I can see further now. And now every time I hit the trolling motor, I don't get showing up on my screen. Just something that easy. Like, he didn't know, but I mean, still was very effective catching fish.
Yeah.
And now he's got even better tech, just a couple simple changes and he's even better.
Yeah.
And if you want a tip, if you've messed with your unit so much, if you're messing with Ghost Tree and you're messing with a noise filter and TVG and you have screwed yourself 6 ways sideways, just go hit restore sonar defaults and leave the damn thing alone. And 9 times out of 10, you'll be fine. It's not my tip. I was given the tip and I found it to be magic. As a matter of fact, from time to time, even without touching things, I will restore the defaults after a few trips. For whatever reason, my picture gets better. I can see those cottonwoods a whole lot better. I see the trees and the fish better. And it's just that simple thing. And I love that Garmin lets us reset the sonar defaults and not the defaults on the entire chart plotter itself. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's one cool thing with Garmin. So, the thing, obviously I work for Garmin, so you got to take it with a grain of salt, right? But Garmin's a great company. They're an engineering company. So we're really engineering focused and really try to, create products that are innovative and stuff that people need. Okay. And so I think what's one cool thing that really helps set our forward facing sonar apart is because of that. So we put a lot of software and a lot of work into the forward facing sonar that allows you to go in and really adjust things, right? So yes, if you don't even have a smartphone and you still have a flip phone, please don't go in and do a lot of adjusting, right? But what's cool is you can. So you can go in and you can adjust that color gain and bring that up, and we can turn that TVG down to low, and we can change color schemes and we can do color limits. Like, there's a lot of these really cool finite tweaks that we can do because every lake's going to be a little bit different. Every fisherman's going to be a little bit different. I might use certain baits, and like Tom Wynn might use completely different baits. And my eyes, I love that black emerald color scheme. Some people love the blue. Like it's going to be different for each person. And so I think that's one cool thing is we really do give the consumer like a lot of options for going in and kind of personalizing their stuff and their sonar and whatnot. And then if it gets all screwed up, you can just start over. So.
Well, and that's the easy thing too. And that's the nice thing of doing it. You go in and I guess I'm not saying don't go in and tweak to your heart's content, because if you tweak and fiddle and fart around. I don't care, whatever. You will learn your unit. You'll understand what you're doing, how to use it, how not to use it, what to tweak, what not to tweak. And then you've got the fallback, hit default and reset it, and you're back at 0, and you can go from there. And I think it's fantastic. I really do. I'm amazed with the better resolution and the 34 versus the 32 in deep water. Never thought I'd ever see anything like it. I am so amazed. It's crazy. Now you need to tell us what we, as like, I'm a novice fisherman, right? So do I want to spend the money on an 86, 10, 12, 16?
Before you get into that, we do have a question that I've been waiting to pop up. I knew was coming. So looking at 66, the 1643, the 8616, which is the best for scoping only? They all have the same size, resolution, assuming screen size, material. Does one or the other have less glazing due to material, or was one brighter?
Great question, Josh.
Yeah, so that is a great question, and that is a question that I feel like I get every single day. And so, unfortunately, it's not an easy question for me to answer. Okay, and here's the reason, right? So my boat is set up completely different than your boat and your boat. And what I want to do with my units is going to be completely different as well. So like, I'm also an ice fisherman, right? And I also have an ice castle. So I want to be able to have one of my units that I can hook up to a TV. So that means I either have to get a 16-inch ECHOMAP now that has the HDMI out, or I'm going to have to get a GPS map to do that. But I was just telling you guys, I really like the ECHOMAP Ultras. So like, prime example, in my boat, I've got a couple of ECHOMAP Ultras on the dash, got an ECHOMAP up front, and then I did do a GPS map as one of my Livescope units. Okay. Now to kind of break it down, so like, you got to figure out, I guess, starting like what works for you. So if we go with all ECHOMAPs, they can all network together. We can hook network cables to all of those and share waypoints, share sonar, share our Livescope to all the different units, right? I save a waypoint when I'm in the front, it's going to show up on my units in the back. Having that kind of like system in your boat, that's awesome. I like that. We didn't have that option when I first set my boat up because we didn't have a 16-inch ECHOMAP back then, and I don't know if I could ever do Livescope without a 16 anymore. So, but I'm spoiled, right? But like, so that's the ECHOMAPs. Now, the GPS maps are really kind of like our premium units. That's going to be the best of the best, especially when we talk the 8600 series. Okay. So yeah, the glass, the screen on an 8600, it's going to be a little bit nicer than, say, like an ECHOMAP, right? Like, you're moving up, you're getting a little bit better unit. Now the GPS maps don't have the buttons on them. They're going to be touch screen only. So, that's one factor. But if you're looking for, like, if you're going through specs and you really want best of the best, we're going to go with an 8600, whether it's a 10, 12, 16, whatever, right? And then our pixels will vary a little bit there. But a good option, kind of, just a step down from that, might be like a 1643. That's a unit that I actually run on the front of my boat. Still a 16-inch screen, still a GPS map, but it's going to retail for quite a bit less. We're going to be retailing like 5,100 for the 1643 versus like 6,300 for the 8616. So saving a little bit of money, you still get a great screen, you still get a good Livescope unit. But now we came out with an ECHOMAP 16. And so that unit really, I would say it's going to be definitely on par with like a 1643, but it's an ECHOMAP, so I can network it to all my other units. 16-inch screen, it's big because you've got the bezel with the buttons and all that kind of stuff, but really is a great option. But if you're looking for best of the best, it is going to be that 8600 series.
So yeah, a little follow-up. Not worried about features, networking, only scoping, looking for best picture.
Yeah, I mean, if that's absolutely what you're looking for, then I'd be going with an 8616 for sure. I'd at least be in the GPS map series, and I'd be going 8616. That's the best of the best. 1643 would be, next under that. So
yeah, and if you're going to do it, dive in, because what's another $1,000, $1,500, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Get the best picture. And frankly, I'm fishing off an 8612 with a friend of mine. Louis got a brand new 8612. I'm using the 10, and the 12 is great for me. I'm sure if I were to get used to a 16, I could never go back down. And whatever, that's fine. That's part of learning.
Yep.
That's a part of the maturation in the live scoping and the scoping world, right? So, I guess if you want to dive in whole hog, do it right the first time, 86-16, and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Get a
Yep.
sniper pole and everything, and you're man.
Yep.
Unless you're gonna hook it to your trolling motor, then you don't need the sniper.
Yep. Yeah, and a lot of people go that route. I mean, like I said, it depends on like that. That's why it's a hard question, right? Because it really depends on the angler, what they want to do. I mean, I got guys that are like, hey, I'm buying one good live scope screen. I want to use this ice fishing and summer fishing, but I want you're not going to carry a 86-16 around per se on a shuttle ice fishing if you don't have to. So like a lot of guys will get an 86-10 then, and they'll use it as their live scope screen in the boat, which is a great screen. A 10-inch screen is still a good size screen. You know what I mean? And then it obviously works very well on a shuttle for ice fishing. So, it just kind of depends on what you want to do there. The difference between the 1643 and the 86-16. So the 1643, technically the screen's going to be a little bit bigger. 86-16, it's our flagship unit. So 8600s are like the best of the best right now from Garmin. You're really going to get a nicer picture on that 86-16. I'm just a dumb sales guy, not an engineer. So I might not explain it exactly right, but kind of like the color spectrum within that unit is going to be a little bit better. You're going to get a cleaner, better picture on an 86-16 than you would a 1643.
So they're not both 1920 by 1080 then?
I'd have to look up the specs.
And if I remember right, the 86-16 is the, and the 16 might be even a little bit better than 1920 by 1080.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I think, and Josh, thanks for the questions because they were absolutely perfect. And you gave the best answer that I've heard to that question that's been asked a million times. And I was going to ask the question too. And I'm glad that Kurt interrupted with Josh's question because you gave a spot on, smack dab, perfect example and answer to every question I had in my head. And I now know what I'm going to do. Before, I didn't have a clue, and I was hoping you were going to have the answer. Josh, answer back if you got what you were looking for. And Danny, if he says no, then fine. Let's dig into it a little bit. We have time.
Mm-hmm. So Gary's is priced too high for wife will never let him spend that much. Just do it, Gary. She'll get over it. She'll get over it. It's worth every penny.
Well, and here's one kind of trade secret, right? So when we look at the Garmin stuff, there's a lot of options, right? So when Garmin does marine, we're helping out people all over the world. We're not just selling stuff to walleye guys and bass guys, but for a guy like Josh who's looking for something that is just a live scope screen, like he already has other units on the boat, whatever, he wants just a live scope screen. We do offer those units where they can be an XSV or a non-XSV. So when you get it as an XSV, that is going to have the sonar stuff built in. So it's going to be able to do side imaging, down imaging, 2D sonar and whatnot. If you get it as a non-XSV, you're just going to have those network ports on the back, which works for live scope. But so he'd be able to buy that. It saves him, some money. Mm-hmm. So he can go that route and then just know that it'll never be able to do any of the sonar stuff, so to speak. It's kind of just like a repeater screen or whatever we plug into it screen.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's, okay, here we go. Both are the same resolution. Explain the difference between those three in electrical differences. The draw vastly different in amps at 12 volt. They all draw vastly different.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the bigger screens, we're drawing some power anyways, right? So I don't even want to get into power stuff per se if we have to here because it is controversial. But here's the thing: dedicated wires. Go in the owner's manual and whatever gauge wire it tells you need to use for each individual unit, use that wire. Let's do some dedicated runs. Let's go and get a quality battery. Pick the brand that you want to use. Let's get a quality battery. Let's not try to start our boat, run our live well, run all of our other accessories, power poles, all this stuff off of that battery, and then hope that we have, a good 12-volt battery for our electronics. Let's get a house. I'm running 130 amp hour amped outdoors battery in mine as a house battery. It just runs my electronics. And then I've got my trolling motor batteries and a starting battery. Like if you're a guy that, sounds like he's got a pretty cool setup, I would definitely go that route. I would look at getting a house battery for running your electronics. Let's run runs.
Josh will probably, he does that. He ran all new lines.
Perfect.
I mean, he's got all that. So
to me, that's step one, most important. And then, they're all going to draw a little bit. Like they're all doing a little bit different stuff. And like, obviously that 8600 is capable of doing a lot of stuff. Like if you look at the XSV model and you look on the back, I mean, we've got a 12-pin transducer port. We have an 8-port. We've got HDMI, USB. I mean, those units are just so capable. We can put these things in great big center console, boats down in Florida where they've got cameras and radars and autopilots and all these crazy things, right? So like there's a lot of processing and a lot of power in those units, but that's also what's giving us a really good picture on that Livescope. So,
yeah. So you got all these different, or my main question is, and we'll get off the power subject because it drives me insane when people talk about power. But my question is, and I brought this up to another manufacturer, everybody's worried about 6 gauge and 8 gauge and all this big wire coming to it. And then you get to the head unit and the wire's like this big around.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. But the one thing I'll say is if you look at a Garmin unit, like a GPS map 8600, look at the power cable on that thing. They've got some pretty good wires coming out of that thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, absolutely. And like I said, I'm just a dumb sales guy, so I can't tell you the amount of power loss in that when we go down. But on those units, I will say there is a lot bigger wire on those power cables. So.
Yeah, but I think the thing that you got to keep in mind too, Kurt, is you're carrying voltage from the back of the boat to the front of the head unit. So you want something that isn't going to leak amperage. You know what I'm saying to you, Kurt? Come on, Kurt.
Yeah. We got Uncle Lou. Every time we talk a new something, Uncle Lou's bank account goes down. So we got a couple of questions in here, but I'm gonna go back to Josh. So he went, he does a lot of research. Josh does this stuff, and he says not really A616 draws a typical 1.3 amps per Garmin.com. That's insanely low to me for a 16-inch. Meanwhile, the 166 draws 3.9, 3 times the power consumption. Doesn't add up to me, especially since the 8616 does more things.
Yeah, and I'd have to ask on that one. I would have been the same as him. I would have thought that the GPS map 8616 was drawn more. So, there's obviously something there that ECHOMAP's doing that the other one isn't. I mean, and maybe the 8600 is just more efficient with its power. I don't know what is the real reason there. I'd have to phone an engineer friend on that one.
You're right on.
I think this next question is coming because of Tom Wind.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Then now this one here, you better own your own business.
Yeah. So obviously, yes, the 9000 series. I mean, the 9000 series is going to look really good, right? It's like looking at 4K TV, versus watching a YouTube video at 1080, right? But the hard part with those is like, at least in my world, we just really don't deal with these a lot. I do know of a couple people running these. Obviously, there's a couple bass guys and a walleye guy running these, but you have to get a special mount for them. We don't really make a gimbal mount for them or anything like that. But then we're even talking more resolution, better processors, better screens. So like technically Livescope's can look even better on those. And then the cool thing with those screens is you can get them in some pretty big screens as well. I mean, obviously the 17, but all the way up to like a 27-inch screen. So now you're talking a whole new level. For sure.
Yeah. The resolution on that 9000 series is 3840 by 2160. So it's true 4K, which I would love to see because it would make Lake Oahu's bottom pop.
Mm-hmm. And that's where like the guys like, when you talk to Tom Wynn and like he's looking at like we can all see fish. I can see fish on an ECHOMAP 73 with Livescope just fine. No problem. I can see my lure. I can see everything about it, right? But when we get on those bigger screens with that way higher resolution, he's noticing like even more real finite details that like might not even show up, or they might show up on those smaller screens with lower resolution, but you don't quite see it, right? That fish are doing, or a flicker of something behind a rock or something like that he's able to see because of those units. So like that, like I said, that's when we're kind of getting into a whole nother level. I think sometimes people get into the weeds a little bit where like ECHOMAP 106 Ultra is an amazing Livescope screen. So are the ones we've been talking about, obviously 8600. I mean, that's still very high end, and it's a pretty small percentage of the Livescopers out there right now running stuff like that. You know, the ECHOMAP Ultras really are kind of like the most popular stuff right now. But yeah, for a guy that's looking for obviously best of the best, I mean, yeah, you go with something like that. But it's still a Livescope image, right? So it's still the same image. You're just putting it in better resolution. But like the Livescope is still only going to come through at what it is. I mean, that GLS 10 is processing the same information no matter what screen it's hooked up to.
Yeah. So, okay. So maybe I can help people visualize it if they're not into the forward-facing sonar. I'm fishing with a buddy with an 8612. I'm using my ice fishing bundle, the ECHOMAP UHD 93, right? Yep. Got the 10-inch screen. So the fish I'm seeing is this little bitty grain of rice, and that's all I see. I see the moving grain of rice. When I turn over and I look at Louis' 8612, I see a blob, but I also see the tail moving, right? And that's on the exact same fish.
And some of that too, like, you know, obviously there's more resolution, so you're going to see more details like that. But some of it too is like the screen size as well. So like on the 8600, we're going to get a better, you know, like we're seeing more colors. We're able to see the resolution of that fish a little bit better. But like sometimes like just looking at it on a bigger screen, like when I look at fish on my 16-inch screen versus my 10-inch screen, like a 10-inch screen is very clear. An 8610 is amazingly clear and great resolution, but I still would rather see them on my 16-inch screen because it's bigger and it spreads it out more, and I can almost like just have a better visualization of what's down there.
Well, and that's funny you say that, because when I ran into Hunter Nitty on Sharp and he's got the iMaster 24 in the front, and I said, "How's that?" And he goes, "It's awesome, but it took me a long time to realize the fish are not the same as they were on my screen." He goes, "Because I was casting on things I thought were hogs, and they're like 18 inchers. Like I would never cast that." So and he goes, "It just blew the picture up, right? Like it's all it did. It took me a little while to realize. Like I had to look at both of them for a while to go, oh, okay, that's what I'm looking at."
Yep, for sure.
So we had another question here. Best forward-facing sonar transducer, and any tips you have for somebody that wants to run multiple forward-facing units.
Yeah, well, and it looked like in his picture he had a pike there. So, I mean, obviously for the average fisherman, unless we're talking that real deep water stuff, the best, you know, transducer right now is going to be our LVS 34. It's our Livescope Plus transducer, we call it. You know, it's going to have the best resolution, you know, the best stitching, the way they were able to make the X pattern of that transducer. It's, you know, the best of the best right now for sure. And then of course, whatever screen we pair it with, like we've been talking, but that is the best. And then when you want to run multiple Livescopes, I mean, hey, the more Livescopes you buy, the better. So, I mean, obviously every transducer is going to need its own black box. So you're going to have, you know, multiple systems set up in there. But a lot of people do that now. You know, like, for example, in the front of my boat, I've got one in forward and one in perspective, and I got two black boxes mounted in the, you know, in one of the boxes on the front of my boat. So there's really not much to it. I mean, as long as I guess the only thing you could run into is networking. So each unit, as long as we stayed 10 and above, you know, you're going to have two network ports on the back. So you want to be able to plug one Livescope into one head unit, another Livescope into another, and then network those together probably. But otherwise, yeah, pretty easy.
So we got more questions. You know, or not questions, more comments. Use the 12. Love using it for weeds and working. Spent a lot of time. And then this one's great comment here.
You know what? I think that must be true because he just finds them. Like, you know, I don't understand it either. So
Danny, when I first met you, like, years ago, I think 4 or 5 years ago, actually, I think the first time I met you, we were in a snow bear, we were filming, and you pulled up you said, well, when's this coming out? Because you can't show this picture. And that was right before the 34 was coming out. Like, you're like, oh, it ain't going to come out till March. So we're like, okay, here's the new transducer, because it was like brand new, was coming out in a few weeks, all that stuff. But you were telling me back then, like, Garmin had little to no market share before Livescope came into the picture.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, when I started literally 10 years ago, almost this month, 10 years ago, I mean, you think about it back then, when I first started, we had ECHOMAPs. They didn't network, and that was it, right? And then we got the Strikers, which is kind of like our price point or entry level units, fish finders, and then it seemed like we were kind of getting some momentum. Things were moving a little bit. And then when Livescope came out, and we won best in that category and then best of the show at ICAST, and it like exploded. And it was funny because maybe I'm a little partial because I'm a northern guy, but I feel like us ice fishermen figured it out first, and we were on the Livescope before anybody. And then it kind of got popular, obviously, after the announcement and that. And then it seems like the bass guys are just finally starting to get on it here the last couple of years. But yeah, I mean, Livescope obviously really helped, put Garmin on the map. And Garmin's made just so many good strategic moves, even with the purchase of Navionics and, making the Livescope. And we've now kind of moved, we've got the trolling motors and every product they come out with, like I said, we're engineering focused. We come out with good stuff,
Yeah, it's not a shot
at the top to work their way down, but we've come out with good products and we've continued to do that. We actually just came out with a kayak product. I'm not a kayak guy at all. Obviously, I'm kind of a chubby guy, but we came out with a kayak motor, and it's like incredible. It makes me want to buy a kayak and go fishing. I mean, they make really cool stuff that like fits a need in the market, and that's what forward-facing sonar did, and it just kind of helped, I think, propel, obviously our market share within, especially this inland category.
And I think you were telling me when you built the first shuttle, it was like built out of wood, big clunky thing, like you guys were carrying around.
Yeah, I had like when this was, I think this would have been Panoptics when that one first came out. Obviously, I live up in Minnesota, and so I kind of seen the forward-facing sonar when we had Panoptics. This is well before Livescope, and not a ton of people were using it. And I was like, man, this is really cool. I'd love to try this ice fishing, and it'd have to be cool for that. And so got like the battery out of my lawnmower and I put it in a milk crate, and I had like this big unit mounted to a piece of wood. I took a transducer, mounted it to a hockey stick, stuffed it down the hole, and I'm like watching a buddy of mine like catch like a fish chasing. He's trying to catch it with a flasher, and I'm like, here it comes. He's like, I don't see nothing. I'm like, no, here it comes, jig. And finally he sees it, and then I can like see how the fish is behaving, like we know now with forward-facing sonar. And all he could see was a line on a wheel going up and down, and he didn't know when the fish was looking at him or looking away or any of that kind of stuff. And he would have given up on it 10 times. And I'm like, jig, jig, jig. And he catches this fish. It's a great big walleye through the ice. I watch him catch it from like 40 feet away, and I'm like, okay, we've got something here. We got to do something with this. And that's where I was able to team up with some engineers, and we came out with the ice bundles, and the rest is history.
Well, so let me ask this, like, when that happened, can you think back to that moment of like, what am I watching? Because that had to be like what you were thinking, right? Like, what is going on? Is this real? Because I couldn't imagine being the very first time you see it.
Yeah. And it's just and that's the thing. And like, I mean, we talk about it all the time, but like forward facing sonar and like that, like when I seen that, it was just, like we've gotten, new technology, and we've gotten like bigger motors and different things, but this was like just completely different, like suddenly on a completely different playing field, right? Where like I could see what's going on down there. And I remember actually we used to work with Steve Panaz quite a bit, and I had him one time out of Mille Lacs right after that situation with Mike, and had Steve out there. I'm like, hey, you got to see this stuff. And we're just sitting on a flat, and at one point I don't even think we were fishing. We're just watching the migration of walleyes coming up on the flat in the evening, and then that next morning watching them just swim off the flat. And it's like, I never knew there was that many fish down there. I never like seen, like you think they do that, like we kind of knew that, right? Like they move up to feed, whatever, but actually being able to use sonar to watch them, it's just incredible. The stuff that you can learn about fish and the lakes and what the drop-offs actually look like. I mean, it was just completely mind-blowing, to see like what it does. So
yeah, it's like I've taken people out and there's people, that hate it, right? Get over it. It's here. Just go out and do it. It's so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't catching you more fish. You still have to catch them. Yes, we're finding, I hate the Bassmaster thing where they say, oh, we're catching fish we've never caught before. I disagree. You're catching fish in places you've never caught them before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Same fish still go to the bank. Them same fish still go do this. We're just out targeting them in a different spot that we've never fished them before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, but it's so much fun. And I look at this younger generation, I got a couple buddies that got kids that are just diehard. They are diehard because of that screen, because that's their whole life, right? They were born with the smartphone,
Yeah, and those kids are good. I tell you what, I mean, you look at these young guys and everyone, like Jay Shakur is a great example. He's obviously a Garmin guy, and I love when people try to call him a livescoper because he's young, and I'm like, he's one of the best fishermen that I know, and he'll beat anybody power fishing. I mean, and that's like he's from Wisconsin. That's what we grew up doing. Like we live in frog country and flipping country and the milfoil, and like, I mean, some of these kids are so dang good at fishing, and then they learn how to do Livescope, and they're just unstoppable. Like they're so good. So, I mean, obviously, there's some to it, right? Like some kids just use the technology and you could maybe say it's a crutch, but we got guys in even the Bassmaster Classic, which is the best of the best, and they can't catch a limit with forward facing sonar. So it isn't the end all be all. We still got to learn how to fish. And I mean, there's a lot of like this young generation, not only do they have the Livescope, they also are learning the skills, and they're learning it fast because of YouTube and time on the water. I mean, look how much time these guys spend on the water. When some of these, I'll call them older pros, are in off season right now, and you look at their Instagrams, what are they doing? They're deer hunting, they're elk hunting, they're relaxing, they're down on the beach, right? What are these young kids doing? What's Easton Fothergill doing? He's fishing, and he's learning. So I mean, they are dedicated. They are just as passionate as anybody else, and they are great fishermen.
Bo Schilling, 18 years old, comes to the Governor's Cup and puts up the biggest bag we've ever seen, 61.51. And his dad will tell you, I've never bought the kid. I don't give the kid anything but time.
Mm-hmm.
The kid guides every day, puts his pontoon away. As soon as he's done with his clients and cleaning fish, his walleye boat's on the water and he's live scoping.
Yep.
And it's incredible to watch that kid work that unit. And but he took his first group of guide clients at 10 years old.
Yeah.
It
all ties back to what I said in the beginning. So what makes these guys good? The Tom Wins, the Dewey Helms, it's time on the water, practicing, learning when they're looking at their Livescope in this depth of water and they see that, they know what to do and they know how to make that cast. When, like, who would have thought that John Hoyer would win a national walleye tour on Lake Erie casting, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's like, I grew up reading Walleye magazine as a kid. I mean, I worked at Cabela's when I was a kid, put on these walleye classics with the biggest walleye pros in the business, from Eric Olson and Bill Shimoda, and Moline was there. I'm trying to think some of these other guys that would have been there back then. Great walleye guys, Kevin McCoy, and you know what I mean? Like, absolutely great fishermen. And now you see what's coming. It's incredible. And I think it's good for the sport. You know, we're getting a lot of people involved, and you know, obviously the Livescope helps drive new people, new business into the fishing business, which helps everybody. We're selling boats, we're selling equipment, we're selling poles that go over the side of the boats. Otter Outdoors, who makes fish houses, they just came out with a new sled this year called the Sonar Sled.
Right.
And it's a forward-facing sonar bundle right into it for ice fishing. I mean, there's a lot of cool, new, innovative things coming to the industry because of this, and I think that's great. I mean, it makes me happy. The competition that we would have, the other electronics companies out there, I mean, they're driving to make better technology, new forward-facing stuff, or maybe even other stuff, that goes along with it to drive other technology. I mean, it's all good for the industry. And quite honestly, that's what we need right now. We need people to keep fishing. We picked up a ton of people during the COVID years, a ton of new anglers, and we want to keep them involved and keep them going. We don't want to lose those kids. We don't want to lose those dads that kind of refound their passion for fishing. So, forward-facing sonar can help that. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And it helps everybody. I mean, it absolutely helps everybody. And I said it last week, and I'm going to say it again. Livescope has given us something we never would have been given. We've had this opportunity to go catch 10 pounders, 12 pounders, 14 pounders, 16 pounders, 18 pounders that we wouldn't have caught. Maybe we'd have lucked out. Take Keith Pazur's 18 pounder, right? 17 and almost 18, right? He caught that on a crankbait, and okay, that wasn't Tom. How you doing? That wasn't the scoping thing per se, but now let's take all these guys that are scoping
backwards, and he watched it bite.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. But here again, now I think my episode of In Through the Outdoors is all about scrolling. It's a new technique, scrolling and scoping, trolling. So anyway, the whole deal here is we're catching these 10, 11, 12 pound fish, just regular average people that we never would have caught. They would have died down there because they're already 20 years old, right? So we're catching these fish that would have just died because there are big walleye dying in lakes every day. Mm-hmm. So we're catching them. We're seeing them. They haven't seen the light of day since they were 17 inches, maybe. I don't know. So I say we owe a debt of gratitude to Livescope because it gave us something that we could never do, and that's catch a fish of a lifetime multiple times.
Mm-hmm. And I think with that being said, I actually had a really cool opportunity to be on the Meat Eater podcast this past summer and able to work with Jeremy from Linder Media. And I think also, though, like, we do have a responsibility as outdoorsmen and as anglers to make sure we're doing the right thing, right? And my thing, like, just like deer hunting, obviously I'm a big deer hunter, but like, bad people are going to be bad people, unfortunately. Now, there's some things that will help, maybe push people that way, but I feel like that's where us as outdoorsmen and sportsmen, and we owe it to us and to the future generations to make sure we are making the right choices. So, if you're out there and you're catching too many fish because you have this technology, then shame on you.
Them same guys were doing it before.
Exactly. And
the problem, we have a people problem in them
100%. And that's where, we just ask for like the people like yourselves and the Deweys and the Toms and the guys that are kind of in the public and people watch, like, let's set a good example. And, let's make sure we get involved with our fisheries and our state fisheries and that kind of stuff. And let's do the right things for the fisheries, because that's what's going to be the right things for us.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stewardship. It's been there in everything. I don't care if it's 4-H. I don't care if it's FFA, whatever. It's always been there, and stewardship is so important that
I had to laugh at that one.
So, I mean, that's just a thing. So before we get too much longer, trolling motors, man, like, you guys have come a long ways with that. I remember, I think it was Minneapolis Boat Show. I was talking to you, and I went down, and, big walleye boats, we all want a 72-inch shaft. And I was talking to you guys, and like, yeah, we don't have one yet, and all these things. And, I went down to the Rams booths, and literally their pro told me, I said, well, you guys don't have a long enough shaft. And he goes, well, I got a guy that'll cut your shaft and extend it. And I'm like, I'm not taking a $5,000 trolling motor brand new and having somebody cut the shaft. Mm-hmm. Now we've got the Kraken with the long shaft. Go into that a little bit, because that thing is a game changer with running your cable through the everything. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and that's once again where, like, the cool part with Garmin is they're an engineering company, so they're able to kind of go in and sort of like redesign something. And I think that's what they did with the Kraken. They did a good job by, yes, we have forward-facing sonar, and having integration with that forward-facing sonar was going to be extremely important with a trolling motor that was going to work on these bigger boats, walleye boats. But not only do we need that longer shaft trolling motor that was more pivot style for like a 622 or a big Skeeter or something like that, we needed a trolling motor that was going to be very responsive, because we're live scoping now. We're in the front of the boat. Like I said, we're making boats with wider bows and that kind of stuff, for walleye fishermen. So we needed a trolling motor that was going to be very reactive so that we can chase fish around with the live scope, but also integrate well with a Livescope transducer. And I think they did a good job when they came out with the Kraken, where we're able to run that transducer cable right down the shaft of the trolling motor, and then able to mount a Livescope transducer right there on the head of the trolling motor. Because on a Livescope transducer, I always tell people this, on a Livescope system or whatever, everyone's like, worried about cases that cover the transducer and all this kind of stuff. The most important thing you can do is protect that cable. There's a lot of wires that run through that cable, okay? And I've seen them sliced from augers. I've seen them pinched in their, cubby on the side of their boat because they made their pole out of PVC and they didn't want to, buy a Brew City pole or a whatever brand pole, right, that folds up. So we were able to run that cable right through the shaft of the trolling motor, completely protecting it, because we all know as soon as you start, you're in anchor lock or something like that and your motor's spinning around, that cable is going to get pulled down. We're going to break some wires. So I think they did a great job integrating that. And then, of course, it's brushless. It's super powerful, super efficient. I actually was out fishing the other day and I was spot locked quite a bit. There was quite a bit of wind. I was like, I better get the boat plugged in because I was going to go fishing a couple days later. And, I checked on the app and I think I was only down to like 88%, battery left still. So they barely use any battery, which is nice, but they have the power when you need it. So they definitely did a good job on that motor for sure.
So one thing, because this is a question that's been here and a couple of questions after, but I will agree with this. When are you going to put a rope to deploy it?
Well, that's one cool thing about Garmin, right? So like we are always working on stuff and they always are coming out with cool product, and they actually listen to the anglers, and we've got a really good group. We started out having a really good group of bass fishermen, which was great. And they've got some good feedback, but we've got some really good walleye pros now with guys like Dewey Helm and, Eric McQuaid and Tom Wynn right there. We've got some good guys, and these guys are like great pieces of information for our engineering team, and our engineers actually listen to them. So, I mean, if that's what they're hearing, and us sales guys, obviously we give all our feedback, and I love that Garmin does a good job of listening. So who knows what they're ever working on. Like I said, I'm just a dumb sales guy, so they don't tell me what's coming next, but you can bet they're always working on some cool stuff like that.
So we got another question. Can you run more than one cable?
Well, obviously, as a factory answer, I'm going to say one cable is what it's set up to do, and whatever else. If you do some research online, I'm sure you could find where people have found ways to do too.
Of course.
Yeah.
Great answer. So, I mean, it's just great. We do have another question I've been saving for a while. What's new and upcoming? Hey, we knew we were going to get
James.
it.
Well, obviously, like I said, they don't tell me because I'd tell everybody, right? Because that's my job. My job is to sell stuff and create excitement around our products. So I know what we have now. Sometimes I know what's coming in the very near future. Obviously, I know Garmin's working on stuff. We've got some of the very best engineers literally in the world. I mean, these guys we can land airplanes now, emergency land airplanes without pilots, our InReach products. Like, we're able to pull all these different things, and put it towards marine. So I can promise you they're working on some pretty amazing things, that are going to come out in hopefully the near future. But at this point, I don't know what that might be.
Yeah,
I can tell you that there are some really neat features on the Garmin units right now that a lot of guys aren't even using because they don't even know they're there, and you'd crap your pants if you learned how to use them. Even the tournament guys.
Well, there's a lot of good information out there on that stuff. Obviously, like when we have limited time, but like Tom Wynn's got that awesome class that you can do. There's a ton of great YouTube videos out there. There's some bad ones too, but if you watch through them, you can figure it out. But there is a lot of great places out there to get information nowadays. I mean, the anglers today have so much more resources than they ever did in the past.
It's incredible. Yeah, that's a big thing. YouTube, right? I mean, Tom Wynn University. We had Tom on the night before he launched it. It is incredible. I've sent so many people that way, and you can learn so much. And I literally had a guy last weekend. He's like, I watched your show and I downloaded Tom Wynn University. I've got through the first 4. I kind of know that stuff. And I said, you just wait. Just wait. You're really going to learn something. I mean, he literally bought it last week after the show and drove to Pier watching it. I don't recommend doing that either, but I mean,
Tom literally, I mean, I've been at Garmin 10 years and Tom's forgot more stuff about Garmin than I even know about Garmin fish lines.
I was going to ask that when you get in a room with do you ever get in a room with engineers and just like don't even know which way the stuff is coming from? Like you talk to those guys and they're probably just like, huh? Like, how do you?
Those guys are so smart. It's incredible. Like, just you're like, you can do what? I mean, it's unreal.
So that was something that was brought up. Like, so when you guys bought Navionics, like, is there more integration coming with that? Because that was one conversation I was having earlier. Like, a guy saying, "Oh, you know, this brand is so much easier to do your waypoints and this and that on." Is there any more stuff coming on that lines, or is that just kind of? I mean, I'm like, Garmin's.
I mean, I hate to keep giving that answer, but like I said, we're always working on stuff, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, we have the Active Captain app. We purchased Navionics. We do still obviously offer Navionics for some of the other brands. So there's a little bit of separation there. We kind of have like the Garmin Navionics stuff and the Navionics stuff. You're getting a little bit more if you run like Garmin and the Garmin Navionics. Great example, you know, I'm in Minnesota. We've got Mille Lacs, Leech, Vermilion Cats, Bemidji, White Bear, St. Croix River, Gull. There's a lot of lakes. I'm missing some, I'm sure, but like where we went and actually mapped them ourselves, or we've got like relief shaded lakes and that kind of stuff. Hint for the smallmouth guys that sonar imagery is awesome for finding rocks. So there is some really cool features for that kind of stuff, and it's always ongoing, right? So it's
like you said, dig more. Right.
Yeah. And we're still new to a lot of this stuff and just putting out as much as we can, as fast as we can. So yeah, I mean, there's always going to be new cool stuff coming.
And that's one thing I'll give Garmin mad props on is every company's going to have faults when they release something, but for the most part, when Garmin brings something to market, it's here to stay. It's not going to have, you know, we need another update. Nope. We need another update right away because we got to fix this. And I work in the world of technology, so we understand updates are constant, but I mean, it's usually ready, pretty bulletproof out of the box.
Yeah. Yeah. They do a good job. We got a lot of great beta testers that test our products and try to get those bugs out of there. And I mean, hey, the one cool thing about Garmin, we do software updates. Like they don't ruin stuff. You do a software update, it usually fixes it, you know, and if it does, they try to get it fixed pretty dang quick. I mean, we got great customer support and it is electronic. So there's always something, but you know, at least for me, I'd say 90% of the time what I run into is user error stuff where they're just missing one piece or one little thing. And, you know, like source not found, transducer not found, you know, that's the number one question. Typically, say 99% of the time, you're just a software update away from fixing that problem. So, you know, it is nice. You know, it's nice to work in a booth where people come up and they compliment us on, hey, I got this product. Hey, let me show you this video of a fish I caught on Livescope. People don't come and say, hey, well, I bought this product and it doesn't work and I don't like it. Like people are, you know, they buy our stuff and they usually really like it.
Yeah, I think those people that don't like it are those that don't play and practice, you know, that just don't use it. They just don't understand it.
That buys it and drives right to the lake and thinks he's going to know how to use it.
Right.
That's where you probably get some. I had a buddy, Billy Katz, bought a Livescope, maybe it was a Panoptics even for his ice shack, and he had it for a year and he sold it.
Yep.
And he's like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever had. I don't like it, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I'm straight up telling you. He said, this is dumb. 2 years ago, he called me, he goes, damn it, I was an idiot. I shouldn't have sold the first one.
Well, so now in Bill's defense, Panoptics was different than the Livescope. It was harder to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Totally different.
And does Garmin offer classes for the public for certain products?
You know, obviously, like we've pitched him here a couple times, his classes, and I do a lot. But Tom Wynn obviously is one of the great options. That class is incredible. I'm trying to think like classes. So like I've done seminars at some Shields locations over the years. They'll do like a Wednesday night, Thursday night class. Otherwise, it just kind of seems like the class thing is going away. Like even at sports shows, it doesn't seem like we've got the seminars like we used to. So I've done, there's a few fishing clubs that I go and speak to every now and again. But even that, like that crowd is getting older and less involved. So I can't think of any classes in the near future, I guess, off the top of my head.
Zach, get with me on what product you're specifically talking about, and maybe I can point you in the right direction.
That might be easier. Yeah.
Just get with me, and then I can point you in the right direction with Danny or with Tom.
Let's change it. Let's go out and do some stuff, Kurt. Let's get Danny with us. Let's go do it. You're talking about this thing. Let's go.
It's not during deer season I'm in.
No. We're talking ice season. We've got to be in the off season, because think about all the stuff that you can train.
Well, Danny, we can work deer and fishing into a trip.
Well, there we go. We'll just do the trainings after dark. There we go.
There you go. Which is fine.
And hey, actually, Tom here with that comment is exactly like there's actually, I know quite a few guides now who offer like a guide trip where it's basically like a Livescope training guide trip. And there's quite a few of them, and you probably know some in the South Dakota area, but there's a lot of guys that do that, and you're going to catch a few fish, which is great, but more importantly, you're going to learn how to use your electronics and see them how they really should be operating and set up. So that actually is probably one of the best things right now.
Yeah, Wahi Wings and Walleyes, the Shillings, right on their website. Livescope training.
That's awesome.
Sorry we didn't catch any fish tonight. I brought my good luck charm, banana Laffy Taffy, my friends.
Well,
it's about time to wrap up the show.
Danny, we appreciate your time, buddy. And hopefully it was raining there, so you weren't worried about being in a deer stand tonight or something, because we know where your head's at this time of year.
I'm waiting for that cold front to hit here. It's supposed to move in like Thursday, but it looks like Saturday, Sunday, Monday is going to be key. We got a dark moon. We got big temperature swings. So that's what you need here in September and October. And I've got a couple that they're close to daylighting, but I think if we get a little cold weather, to go with it, I think we could make something happen. So
I think we're just gonna have to get Danny back on and pull the Garmin hat off and just put Danny deer in it.
There you go.
There we go.
It's pretty impressive what you got behind you, buddy. So, well, good luck, bud. Best of luck in the deer season. We'll see you here in the near future. We appreciate you taking your time tonight and joining us.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right. Take care.